All right, I still see some people in the back. There will be more time to discuss later, but we need to get going, so please take your seats. All right. So as everybody's taking their seats again, welcome to round 2 of this brand new Ukraine panel discussion event. This round is going to be about the economy, and as many politicians will tell you, it's the economy, stupid. So it's probably one of the more important parts of the agreement that we should talk about, and also one of the parts that we find it hard to understand because maybe it's a bit of technical discussions. We might not understand all the implications, so we're very happy to have 4 panelists. But before I announce the panelists, I would like to announce one other thing. Katja and Evelina were playing, and there was a slight miscommunication because apparently I should have announced them over there and got you all to only listen and be quiet, and I didn't, so I apologize for that. However, they are prepared to give us another round of their exquisite music after this round. But then if you would like to have a chat with the panelists or with each other, then please stay in this room. But if you go to that room for a drink, then take 10 minutes to enjoy the beautiful music they're playing. And let's be respectful and quiet by then. So I hope you don't mind, but that's the way we're going to do it, and I'm very happy that they're prepared to stay with us for some more music. I see some people nodding, so I think more people agree that they're pretty good at it and that we definitely should listen. All right, with that out of the way, we are in round 2. Welcome to 4 great guests that we have. An excellency, and well, you're all excellencies, but one real excellency. Let's start on my right, Mr. Donald Kalf. Welcome. You are a board member of Transparency International, which is a great organization, but I found that not that many people in the Netherlands have heard about it. So maybe you can have a short introduction about what Transparency International does, and then we also understand exactly what you are doing here.
Okay. Well, I'm delighted to be here, delighted to participate in this debate. Some of you know that Transparency International is the largest international anti-corruption network. We have chapters in 100 countries. We have a head office with 200 experts in Berlin, and we're making inroads in various places. We joined the Yes campaign in a very early stage. We wholeheartedly support this, and that is partly inspired, of course, by the fact that our colleagues in the Ukraine are playing such an important role, and that's the advantage of being an international organization, that you see eye to eye on these complicated issues. We think that this is an opportunity to convey to a larger public the erosion of corruption in so many walks of life. That is, now we talk about economics, and I have lots to say about this, but in general, there is no major problem, whether it's the environmental problem, human trafficking, drugs, you name it, that is not fueled by corruption. So we see it as a root problem, and we use this and on other occasions to focus on that. The other thing that is, of course, clearly missing, maybe fortunately, but all the Dutchmen or non-Ukrainians have no clue what it is to live in a country with corrupt officials. We haven't a clue, so we see it as part of our expertise and our contribution to the debate to convey what is truly going on. And so we stay close to the body of knowledge that we have developed, but we branch out to different topics. And personally, I'm very comfortable with economics. I was spent my life in large companies.
That was going to be my follow-up question. So, of course, you represent a huge organization.
Yeah.
But what got you to that position? And do you have anything in particular with Ukraine?
Well, I have a lot with international business. I worked for Royal Dutch Shell. I was in the executive board of KLM. Heavily involved in all kinds of tricky issues, including corruption in most places in the world. And now I'm an entrepreneur and an investor, starting a company that's going to branch out in Africa and Asia, and again, directly confronted with corruption. So those are my credentials.
Oh, that's a big, that's a mouthful of credentials, which I shall be jealous of, but not now because we need to continue. René Kremers, do you know we might actually be family because my mother's name was Kremers. Oh, that's just a random fact. And who got you on this panel? You might wonder. Well, actually, you were prepared to stand in for a colleague who couldn't make it last minute. So thank you very much for being here on such a short notice. You were one of the initiators of Plus for Progress, and you work at DIFCO International, who also does a lot of business in the Ukraine. So maybe we talk one after the other. What does your company do? Where do you work?
I'm working for DIFCO International. It's a company which I own together with Van der Ploeg, and we are in agriculture. We are supplying knowledge and equipment for mainly dairy farming. So we are the representative in Ukraine for CRV, the largest cooperative in the Netherlands for genetics. Yeah. And we are doing several projects in Ukraine, and I'm already coming for 20 years in Ukraine.
And Plus for Progress.
It's a group of Dutch companies, 25 companies, including universities, also suppliers of equipment, suppliers of know-how, some consultants in agriculture, mainly for edible farming, focusing on precision and smart farming, all kind of modern technologies for improving yields, mainly for potatoes, vegetables and onion, but also in edible farming.
So the plus is for the yields and the progress is for what you get when you get more yields. Is that correct?
That's right.
And why did you initiate that?
Because we see that from the Netherlands we can supply beautiful equipment, but if you don't use it right, you're not going to make money and they don't buy again. So we need to help and to train the people to use the equipment right. Now it's the same in the Netherlands. If you go to a farmer, something is going wrong, he will blame the weather or he will blame the supplier of the feed, but he will never say, oh, I'm a bad farmer. But that's the same in any country. So you need to help them to use the equipment right and the technology right, and then you're going to make money.
Okay, that's a very down-to-earth way of saying it. Yeah, I think usually the French wine farmers, when they have a bad wine, it's the gods were not willing to give his. But maybe they're just bad wine farmers. It's very possible. So thank you for that insight.
Believe me that it is.
All right, so great to see you here. Your Excellency, the Minister of Agriculture in the Ukraine, Oleksiy Pavlenko. Thank you very much for being here. Are you one of the people in the delegation who is going to stay until the 7th of April, or are you here for just a short trip, and are we very happy to have you here just for this one shot at doing a panel discussion?
Actually, tomorrow we'll have very big, I think, very important business forum. We expected it has been planned many times ago, and it really would be very much interesting. And by the way, on agrarian panel, we already have 173 companies. It's really overbooked. Big crowd of people would like to come and who are interested in making business with Ukraine. And by the way,
so it's already starting the whole business.
It's actually yes. It's questions about economics, and you know, it's about agrarian sphere, which I represent in Ukraine. In Ukraine, we are #3 exporter worldwide of the grain and wheat. And we can easily double our production together with Dutch technologies. And to help Dutch companies to earn money. At this moment, Dutch business is very much focused and interested in Ukraine. And we have plenty of farmers working in dairy sector, in in developing and processing, in infrastructure sector. With the port facilities, we need a huge number of port facilities if you think about doubling the export. And the best worldwide Dutch technologist for grain storages and for many different other stuff. And this actually was discussion topics we had before, and we also had several joint projects with Dutch government, also with associations, also to help the business actually to grow and to develop in different spheres, from biotech, energy saving technologies, reforming issues, plus also to bring the technologies for milking cows and many other spheres.
Cows, that's definitely something we
Cows,
share.
Dutch cows, one of the best. You ask about experience. I was
One of the best.
one of the best here in the Netherlands. I actually graduated from Nyenrode University, and yeah, I've been with KPMG. Then I was here. Actually, did my MBA in Nyenrode, and for sure, Dutch cows are the best.
Thank you very much. I don't know why there's no round of applause yet. I mean, if I were there, I'd be clapping my hands off. Okay, thanks very much for being here. Yeah, we need to, of course, introduce everybody in the panel. Daniel Bilak, thank you very much for being here as well. You are a lawyer, you're an advisor.
Don't hold it against me.
Well, if I would not win in court because you know how it works. You're advising Ukrainian government, right? So, and it's not the first Ukrainian government that you advise for.
No,
what's your Ukrainian history?
I was born and raised in a far western Ukrainian town called Toronto, and and I've been in Ukraine 25 years. Sometimes that feels like a sentence, but it's never a dull moment. I have reasons to be here as well. I mean, as you said, 10 years I worked inside the Ukrainian government as a senior governance advisor on anti-corruption. Don't blame me, please, for this current status.
Well, anti-corruption, right?
That's
so
right.
At least it's
nobody
a
listens.
good side of history.
I have a professional reason. I'm a managing partner of an international law firm in Kiev, CMS Cameron McKenna. We actually do a fair bit of business with Holland through our sister company, CMS Dirk Star Busman, in here. And I have a personal sort of affiliation with Holland. One daughter studied here in university, another one will be doing her master's here. And my first girlfriend was Margaret van der Laan in high school, and I've loved the Dutch ever since.
Okay, well then, yeah, there's another round of applause in order. I don't know, I guess just saying. If there's a compliment, I'll take it.
I don't think she'd appreciate the cattle analogy, but
No. It's a whole different story. But you mentioned you actually reformed a ministry in Ukraine.
Well, actually, I've reformed it just to see how things go in Ukraine. I actually reformed it twice.
How do you do that in the Ukraine?
You're just too stupid to know that it can't be done. I was twice...
Another thing we have in common, I guess.
I was twice effectively Chief of Staff to the Minister of Justice of Ukraine in 1995 to 97, and then in 2006, 2007. And it was fascinating because it's kind of like sausages. You know, once you know how they're made, you really don't want to go back. But 10 years I spent in doing legal reform and public administration reform. And we can have this discussion. I'd like to dig a little deeper because if you don't do those two things, and Ukrainians are doing those things, but they need to speed them up, it makes it very difficult to have proper economic results in the country. And I think that all of these things need to move in tandem, and we need to, I think, explore a little bit the reasons why, especially in the area of corruption. We talk about Ukraine is corrupt, and Ukraine is corrupt. I mean, what does that mean exactly? Ukrainians are not corrupt people. Okay, they're the same as the Dutch. We have a system that we have inherited from the Soviet Union that forces these kinds of situations. And it's a system, what has happened since the Maidan this last time, has essentially started to change that system. And we have right now, we're in a transition period. We are a transition between the old Ukraine. Every revolution has a counter-revolution, right? And we're now in that phase where the old Ukraine is trying to conserve itself, conserve the schemes, conserve the financial benefits, and there's the new Ukraine, represented by many of the people you saw on the panel this morning from
young
Ukraine.
People as well.
Exactly, the young people, Svetlana and Taras, for example, and it has not yet taken root. But what is happening is that there is this battle taking place, and the new Ukraine is winning, and because up to 2 years ago, people feared the system. Today, the system fears the people. And that is a quantum leap in 25 years that I haven't seen.
Wow.
They've seen now.
You already have a comment. Yes, sir. Okay, let's have this comment. Great. Yeah.
Because actually DCFTA agreement, association agreement for us, it's actually a roadmap, and part of that actually changing jurisdictional reform, prosecution reform, and also, for example, food safety reform as well. I can give you example, for example, with food safety and security. We now have comprehensive plan to change it.
And the reforms in the last couple of years, you mean?
Meaning, yeah, it's not anymore Soviet Union system of controls for security and safety. It's European system, internationally recognized, with exporting to 190 countries, which has been also recognized by those countries. But part of them, meaning when we're talking about, for example, reforms, we cancelled in our ministry 56 different licenses and certificates, which were also been part of corruption. For example, we had quarantine certificate to move from one region to another region. People know from the business. And from previous times, you had to pay many times, which was subject to corruption. No license, no corruption. We managed to save huge money for the business, improve logistics for the whole system more than 5 days. And even in our ports, I can give example, Port of Odessa, we now have one window approach where sanitarian, phytosanitarian, quarantine and custom clearance control, and it takes up to 15 minutes, the same as the port of Rotterdam, to clear the ship, trying to introduce international European standards. So for us, association agreement at IMF package, also part of the roadmap of the transforming the country.
Yeah. Okay, well, we'll dive a little bit more into that, into that transition and into corruption later. First of all, I want to mention, hello everybody at home. We are, in fact, looking now and then at the Twitter feed. So if you have a hashtag brand new Ukraine by hand. You mentioned new Ukraine. We're talking about brand new Ukraine even, or at brand new Ukraine. You can ask your questions or leave your comments there, and we'll make sure that we make them appear in the discussions. And the same goes, of course, for the audience, but not after we have the first line of questioning, and that's for everybody tonight. That's the same. What is the biggest nonsense you've heard about the association treaty? Maybe Donald, you would like to start first. Yes. You have a personal thing about nonsense that you've heard about the association treaty as well. So you're allowed to have two.
I'm not sure what you're referring to, but anyway, one thing that comes to mind, and staying within the economical realm, is the claim that the multinationals are behind the yes camp. And there is a fundamental inconsistency among the Socialist Party who is espousing this nonsense. Because the big complaint is, of course, that they focused on profit per share, and focused on quarterly results. That sits very uneasily with the grand schemes. That's the 19th century notions of cigar smoking capitalists who are dividing the world. Now, I know for multinational companies from inside out, and it is not even on the radar screen. There is maybe a sales manager in a certain division who starts to look at the Ukraine, but there is conspiracy or pressure couldn't be further from the truth. So that is one. That's not the one you're referring to.
But the personal one is that somebody mentioned that you did not speak on behalf of Transparency International when you spoke in favor of the association agreement.
Well, it's again, and that's not a coincidence, it's the Socialist Party. There is a debate between Diederik Samson and Mr. Roemer, and Diederik Samson said, well, Transparency International is very much behind the association treaty. And then it is amazing when you sit in front of a TV with this lie, this flat denial, just referring to a chairman who has expressed a personal opinion. I was on the front page of the Financial Dagblad, and there was no question that I was talking on behalf of the Dutch chapter and the Ukraine chapter representing the movement. And that is galling. I mean, that is of a level, people are prepared to sink to levels that are unimaginable.
I hope you had an extra drink that evening in front of the television.
Well, I'm glad that I got it out of my chest now.
I'm happy to help in that sense. Okay, so thank you very much for that first bit of nonsense that we wanted to get cleared out of the way. Maybe you should choose who goes next to share their nonsense. It's nice to have some involvement. So which one of the three gentlemen would you like to hear? Which is the biggest nonsense that they saw?
Well, the minister, of course.
Very much so.
I can
yes,
give out many nonsenses, yeah. Because I have also Dutch friends, and I used to talk with several of them.
You have to prioritize, though, which is the biggest.
So one of the nonsense that, let's say, within association agreement we have membership EU. It's not. It's not the same like in Romania and Bulgaria. It's not. It's free trade agreement. It's huge benefit for Dutch business to enter Ukrainian market. And I can give you, because it's not, you have economical questions, I can give you many figures. In agrarian sphere, we have, for example, 56 harvesters and tractors. Out of them, 72% with the age of 20 years plus. They need to be replaced. Huge market for machinery, for technologies. Huge market for dryers, for silencers, for planters, for fertilizers. It's huge opportunity for banking business, for Rabobank also, for ING. So it's really huge potential for business, making business together, because Dutch people are very much entrepreneurial. It's first one. Second one, also it was also a rumors, a question about immigration policies that coming to association agreement, all our people would come to suddenly to work and to crowd the whole Europe. It's not. It's different. It's free trade agreement. It's not actually the treaty with opening the borders. Visa free is separate. Absolutely. It's another specific actually question. So this actually, let's be focused and give actually the clear statements. And it's not the danger. It's an opportunity. And also hear the rumors that Ukrainian products are unsafe. They're not made on European standards. All Ukrainian companies who entered European market, they're 100% audited by also European standards. They're 100% by European standards. And Europe is not the biggest market. The biggest market is Asian market, for example. 6.6 billion we have for agrarian sphere. And 4.2 now this year we have for European Union. And once again, we are exporting to 190 countries. We're really one of the biggest countries in the food. We're now feeding more than 200 million people on the planet. And actually also there is an issue that it's okay that association agreement could cause some external problems for Netherlands, for example. I can give example, for example, with Ukraine, because there were also many questions about Russia Federation. Yes, we're also now suffering a lot from the sanctions from Russia Federation. You know, from the 1st of January, Russia stopped our import of the agrarian products. So 90% of total block sanctions was agrarian products. We also made from our side the steps. Now Russia blocking the transit through their territory to Kazakhstan, Uzbekistan, China, and other countries. This is nearly $500 million also blocking the export. We cannot make it. We cannot now stop the export coming from our territory to European Union because we're part of DCFTA agreement, association treaty. We cannot block, let's say, movements of products without consulting with our partners, also with the Netherlands and the European Commission. So we're not doing so. Meaning that we're showing the partnership scheme and we are having the focus on actually an economic fight with Russia because of that. But we're trying to diversify our markets. We last year opened 9 new countries for more than 120 Ukrainian companies. Meaning that there are so many also questions which could be easily, if you go into the deeper details and see the figures.
Well, we're not going to do that right now because it's only the first question. But I suspect you see a lot of nonsense going on if you have so much that you know about the actual trade. I need to get to the next, and I would also like to hear from you. What is your biggest nonsense nomination of the evening?
I want to focus on 2 issues. One is EU accession, so that this is a first step to EU accession. It's not, and I would also recommend Ukraine not to do it, because you came from the bureaucracy from Soviet time, but if you go to EU bureaucracy, you're also trapped. So especially in agriculture, please don't go. It's a lot of bureaucracy, and the Dutch farmers are really not happy with EU regulations and all the things. So if you take the good things and you're not in EU, you will really have the benefits, but not all the bureaucracy. So be careful in that point. And the other thing, you also referred to Russia. One of the things that the Dutch, especially dairy sector and pork sector, thinks that, okay, if you vote against, you will please Mr. Putin, and he will open the borders for milk and pork. Also that, forget it. And even if he would open the border, at this moment the economy in Russia is that much down due to low oil prices.
They're not going to buy a lot of it.
Yeah. They don't buy a lot. They even don't buy from Brazil and Argentina at the moment a lot of pork meat or dairy products. So this is completely nonsense that if you vote against, that you would please him and open a big market. The market is not there anymore. And in fact, he is right. He is protecting his country. He wants to be self-sufficient at any cost. And if the cost price of the pig meat produced in Russia is higher, he wants to produce it in Russia. And he's going to do it, left or right, and he will find always an excuse. And now he used Ukraine, he used the swine fever in Poland. He will always have an excuse to block our products. So this referendum is not about opening the border with Russia.
Okay, thank you very much. Well, you know the question. Daniel, what do you think?
Not much left to say, actually. Just pick up where the minister left off. I mean, I find it very difficult. It might be a reflection of how much we talk past each other, that there's not a lot of understanding among Ukrainians about why the Dutch even don't want to, would even think not to vote for something that for us would be so self-evident. You know, from the Ukrainian perspective, you know, for 600 years, the prosperity of Holland has been based on the fact that it is one of the preeminent trading nations of the world. And, you know, it's gone to halfway around the world, to Sumatra, to South America, to build those trading links. And here you have on the European continent 46 million people and the last emerging market in Europe waiting to open its doors to Dutch products. And by the way, you're already the #1 foreign investor after Cyprus, but we don't count that because that's really Ukrainian money. I mean, you are the #1 foreign investor in the country already. And so it really is a very good thing that we're probably having this debate, so to at least get these things out into the open. I mean, I think that it's important to put this in context. What's happened? I mean, 2 years ago, Ukraine's economy was, and this is, I'm not being facetious here, was very close to what Europe was like after the Second World War. We had basically our entire economic model, which was not a winning formula for the future. Steel and coal is not the winning formula, but it was wiped out. We completely lost 20% of our GDP overnight. And devastated. We didn't have a government. We were just coming out of a revolution, et cetera, et cetera. And you know, when you look at where Holland was at the end of the Second World War, what was it that pulled Holland out of, and all of Europe out of the morass? It was the Marshall Plan, for one. But it was also the Coal and Steel Agreement. It was a Coal and Steel Union. It was a trade agreement that actually started to paste Europe back together and get the linkages moving and the trade flowing so that everybody prospered. And frankly, that relationship, plus the American protection and the NATO protection, gave Europe 70 years of peace, prosperity, security, and stability. This is the first generation that didn't have to fight a war in probably 300-400 years. And that's an remarkable achievement. I get why people are upset. We can talk about that after, you know, today with the bureaucracy, et cetera, et cetera. But, I mean, why wouldn't you want to have a Europe whole, at peace and free, as opposed to a Europe in pieces? For a small country like Holland, who's very prosperous and has made its entire economy on trade, it's very difficult to understand.
Okay, you triggered Mr. Kalf. In the meantime, please think about your questions and comments, because I'm going to the audience after that. But Mr. Kalf, you go first.
As you are fully aware, fortunately, the execution of the trade part of the Association Treaty is in the hands of the European Commission. The Dutch have no say in its implementation, and the rules are being fixed. So a no vote would be a disaster for many reasons. But in the technical sense, in terms of the stimulation of trade and investment, it will not have an effect. And maybe one of the good things is coming out of a bad thing, the fact that we have a discussion. I've never met so many people from Ukraine in my life, so that is, if we could multiply that, we come out okay on the economic side.
Okay. Thank you for that addition. I already saw a hand going up too, so that's 2 people in the back, so I'll move there. And please, maybe if you ask a question, you can also address it to a specific person in the panel. Yes, sir. Thanks for standing up. That always looks better. Oh, there you go. Yes, go ahead.
Thank you. My name is Ad Merks. I have a question to Minister Pavlenko on economics. We have the campaign is running now. We have only 1 week to go for the referendum. And the family business is strong in Holland. Medium-sized enterprises are strong in Holland. Our export success is based on medium-sized enterprises, family-owned companies. What is important for us in the Yes campaign is how can we improve that situation in Ukraine. Okay. The No campaign is sensitive for that. Family companies, family-owned business, taking care of the money, that they can keep the money and can go on in the business, medium-sized and growing. Okay. That's important.
All right, thank you very much. Maybe you can pick up that question straight away.
Yeah, it's not, you know, I'm the minister who used to talk with the business a lot. We used to meet here, unfortunately no ambassador, but also member of the embassy. We used to talk with Dutch business who are working in Ukraine, and especially medium-sized business. Several farmers, unfortunately they're not here, but they can tell you, working in Ukraine, they used to come from medium-sized business in Holland, having 100 hectares land in Holland. Now they have 2,000 hectares of land in Ukraine. The most fertile land actually in the world, 30% of the fertile land, of the black soil, is in Ukraine, with the lowest taxes in Europe, with the good climate conditions. Only in the 5 regions we need irrigation, for the rest we don't need irrigation. Meaning that, unfortunately, the major issue we have in Ukraine at this moment, our land is undercapitalized. I can give you an example with the Netherlands. In the Netherlands, per hectare, 2.5 times more capital is involved. For capital investments, for working capital, like for example, crop protection, seeds, fertilizers, and your yield is also 2.2 times higher. And your also machinery and also technology is also better because you have, it's a more capitalized and it's more advanced. So huge potential in Ukraine also with the reforms we're doing. We plan, this year we announced, for example, as for investors, we're ready also to go with the land reforming. I can give you an example. Meaning it's also huge potential for that Dutch entrepreneurial company to come and also to work with Ukraine. And Rabobank, for example, now is involved, ING Bank. So for small and medium-sized businesses, first of all, investment opportunity. Second one, it's also new market, 45 million people. Growing market.
Yeah. Just a quick addition then.
Yeah, my question is, we are sensitive for the Ukraine people. We like that the Ukraine people, Ukraine farmers, Ukraine families can grow as medium-sized companies. That is what we want to hear. That is what we need in our
I can give you example already by the figures, just also to break the stereotypes. At this moment we have 2.4 million individual farmers. 2.4 million. 56,000 farmers average size. For the big holdings, as used to say, Ukraine, big holdings with, for example, 50,000 hectares plus, we have only 8% of total land size. 8%. And I can give now interesting examples. 82% of milk is produced by small, medium-sized farmers in Ukraine. 82%. 98% of potato. More than half of the meat as well. So small and medium-sized business is a key issue and the key sector now at this moment for involvement.
Okay, thank you. I think you directly. I think maybe you would like to add something, Daniel.
I would like to pop in. You've asked 2 excellent questions, one from the last session and this one, and I think it's an important one because there is this sense that you, especially in agriculture, that you have these big companies that come in that fund and they grab all the land, and the poor farmers get squeezed out. For one, that's a very, I have clients, for example, one of my clients is farms 450,000 hectares of land. It's the second largest farming operation in Ukraine. And this doesn't happen by accident. It's not like all of a sudden they fire all the farmers and you have robots working the property. They have thousands of farmers that they work with. The single biggest problem for farmers in Ukraine is access to capital, working capital. They don't have the working capital. Banks aren't lending. As you know, we have a huge problem with our banks. That situation is being reconstructed. But in the meantime, what do the farmers do? What this client has done is they realized that they were lending their farmers money anyway. So they bought a bank out of bankruptcy, and they basically turned it into a farm credit operation, where now that they can give the farmers working capital, and since they own the elevators, they can take the crops as security, and so they can lend at a reasonable price. And they have an interest in working with those farmers because they work the land. And they also hold the land because they're because the big companies can't own the land in Ukraine. So they're actually renting from those same farmers. So this is a whole dynamic that is very much below the radar screen, but it's actually operating. And Ukraine is the #2 grain producer in the world. I mean, as a result. And, you know, it's, right now we have 50 million, roughly 50 million tons, 61, they're even getting better. That's without all of the Dutch, for example, technology that could actually increase those yields to 120. So there's lots to play for here, and not just by big farming corporations. And as the minister said, most of what we eat, what I eat, what I buy, is from the village. I live outside of Kiev. Virtually everything I eat is produced locally.
Yeah. Thanks for these. I just, oh, well, a quick comment because I need to get to the next question.
What about cooperatives?
This is one of the major actual projects.
Okay.
Also now excited with Dutch government as well. One was actually how to promote. With Canadian government also. Total value of projects for last year, it's not so much probably in Dutch figures, but it's up to 30 million euro, especially focused on governmental projects with the donors, with small medium-sized farming. And now actually recently has been signed with European Investment Bank the loan facility for 400 million euro, which is waiting the parliament to be voted. As soon as it will be voted, it would be with a special focus on a small and medium-sized farming to give them access to financing. Financing costs 36% per year. Interest rate was last year 36. This year currency stabilized because we have IMF program. This year the interest rate to give the financing, for example, you're a small farmer. You can get the financing for 9 months for 24% interest rate. It's disaster. It's huge cost of financing.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you very much. Okay, you also had a question, sir.
My name is David Ladder, and I have a question to Mr. Kalf. Returning a little bit to the nonsense category we talked about before, and this is I want to like to ask you to elaborate a bit on a sense of transferability of corruption, because one of the big fears that you hear a lot now in debates is that increasing trade or going into an association agreement with Ukraine would bring corruption to the Netherlands, or would somehow increase this corruption, which is, in my opinion, at least a ridiculous idea, that a country where you already trade with a lot right now, that an association agreement that actually gives you the tools and the opportunity to invest and reform, to help reform, to make it a safer country, would negatively benefit our own system. And as was already said before by Mr. Bielak, that a system, people are not corrupt. And the idea that this just would flow over to the Netherlands, I think that you are in a perfect position to debunk that argument, to show people, because that's what I hear when I talk with my friends, my family, they're afraid of something that they shouldn't be afraid of.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you. The answer is yes, I think, from your...
Well, the good thing is that the association treaty takes a comprehensive approach. It will not be fighting corruption in isolation. No, it's part of a major movement towards a civil society. It is human rights. It is an independent judiciary. You need to advance in on a very broad front, and that is one of the very not very frequently highlighted advantages of the association treaty. There is, what do you say to people that fear that we will import corruption? The answer is, if you're really afraid of it, you should have every incentive to push the boundaries further. You have, it's not only the association treaty, but the fact that at this point in time, and 300 companies sounds impressive, but you will take off at a certain point. You will export non-corruption. And that is also due to the fact that there is now more attention in this country for corruption and fighting corruption, and there is much more attention now, and you are now very useful and very severe penalties on the Dutch law if you engage in corruptive practices abroad. So I would be anyway. It makes a business sense to go in and refuse from day one any temptation. That is my experience. And you will be tempted once, you will be tempted twice, but at a time it will stop, and you lay the foundation for a very useful expansion. This is the Unilever story in Turkey. The moment that they went in a big way, they had a very stern approach to matters, and they left alone and set an example for other companies. So that will be my advice to Dutch companies, not to engage in a single act of corruption, because then you're lost. So, and to your family, I say, if we leave them stew in their own juices, do you really think that corruption will not come our way? Yeah. And it is an international fight, and it can only be fought, and it is indeed contagious. But we are ill-advised to sit tight, and because then we are pushed back.
And we also heard that a lot is already going on in the world of corruption. And I think, Daniel, you specifically said something, you want to expand on that? Everybody has an opinion, so let's open the corruption debate and let's deal with it. So, René, how about you go first?
What is very important, what we see in practice, is that the number of rules are going down, and I'm very happy to see in Ukraine that you are really working on a reduction of all the rules. We were just discussing, for example, about registration of varieties. It takes now 3 years. So it's a big challenge not to take that shortcut. But it will be shorter. So then there is no challenge to go for corruption. And this is very important. I'm very happy to see that Ukraine is taking very big steps. We see that every day in our business, that the regulations are going down, that there have been a lot of rules in the past just to earn some extra money. Sure. But this is cut down. And this is the right way, and we need to support that.
And you see it in practice in your
definitely.
business?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay. Thanks.
As it was just to it, as it was mentioned, for example, I can give you an example with fertilizers. It used to be 3 years to wait for registration. Now it takes only 2 months. 2 months, and no monopoly. It's very simple. But it's also, when you change the rules, actually, I agree with your question. Question is very much tempting. So, because about export of the corruption, it's question that companies must be also changed. Because if companies that used to work before in the corruptive schemes, they also have to change their mentality. I gave the example recently also in the meeting that we had example with did a reform in sanitary and phytosanitary controls. We didn't. We fired the people, we took new people, we also put at European controls, new measures, and we asked to work absolutely clear and without any kind. We ask the business, if somebody would like ask you for corruption, please don't do it. You know what's happened. The business came in 1 month, top international business, I don't want to say the names, and told, you have the issue with you trying to corrupt, let's say, the guys with the quality of grain, for example. There is a procedure, first control, second control, third control, we go with the cameras, we take the analysis, and let's see, no, don't do it. But you have the analysis issue with ambrosia, with quality. What do you want to do? We would like to solve the issue. No, guys, it's question to you. So it's some kind should be done also the public and private agreement. Guys, we show government have zero tolerance for corruption, but business should also work clearly and don't cheating. Issue with the cheating. Otherwise you play the cat and mouse game.
So I was wondering actually 2 things, because you've been involved from inside the government, you're also a lawyer, so you see both sides. People are making claims about a lot of progress being made on corruption. So what's your take on this? Is it true? How does it work?
Yeah, I think that there are a couple of things. And again, this is not a simple area. It's easy to say, oh, they're corrupt. Oh, we're worried about exporting. I cannot understand how you can export corruption if you're not prepared to import it. So I don't think the Dutch, there's something wrong with the Dutch that, God, don't tempt us, please, because we'll take your money. I've never met a Dutchman like that. So I mean, it doesn't just show up on your doorstep and start infecting your businesses in Holland. I mean, the minister is absolutely right. You have to have, and most large and small companies have compliance requirements. We cannot do this. All my Dutch clients, Shell, TNT, have absolutely rock solid compliance departments that are very, very clear. In fact, they hire us even to go to court because they need to have a compliant law firm.
Yeah.
They can't hire local law firms because of perception issues. And so you know, all of this argument about export doesn't make sense.
It's more like importing anti-corruption, as you said.
But you have to understand that I always tell my clients, the minute you pay once, you will pay forever.
Yeah.
It's a slippery slope, because then the system, the people who are prepared to extract bribes, know that you will pay. You'll never get off that trail. So, I mean, the one hand is businesses don't do this. The second part is, as the minister pointed out, there have been some very significant steps that have been taken on an institutional basis. Because corruption is very easy to fight. You shine light in dark corners. I mean, it's all about building a system of transparency and accountability and having government focus on the effective delivery of services. And the more you put on the internet, the more that you have people register on the internet, the more that you provide information and get feedback loops, that creates confidence. It legitimizes your institutions, and it allows for removing these issues. We have to understand something that's really important, is that, and this is why this trade agreement is so important for Ukraine. It's important for Ukraine because it sets rules and conditions by which Ukraine will get access to the EU market if it does certain things. Just like the IMF will not give money unless Ukraine does certain things. Yeah. And this is an institutional problem. We are just building the institutions in Ukraine now. We inherited, we don't have indigenous institutions to fall back on like the Dutch did after the Second World War. Our indigenous institutions are local government and the church. The state was always foreign. It was either the Russian Empire, it was the Soviet Union, it was the Polish Empire, it was the Austrian Empire, it was always somebody else. And so the state didn't matter. So what we have for Ukrainians, what we inherited was a Soviet-style government and a Soviet-style decision-making process, a command administrative system of governance. And that's what the Maidan was designed to fight.
We'll talk about the IMF in just a second, but there is a very long way to go. Because, of course, we're here, we're talking about corruption in a sense that there's a lot happening, but it's about the 150th on the world corruption list. So you're coming from very far. How much confidence should we really have in that you will get there? You will climb to maybe the top 50?
Well, look, I have every confidence because this is a people-driven process. It's not a government-driven process. It's not about the corrupt elites are trying to conserve their positions right now.
That's the anti-revolution thing you said.
And this is why we're in this transition period. But they're swimming against the tide of history. And the fact that the more, with every reform that the minister makes, the other ministers make, it starts to build a momentum. We're all used to very quick and easy answers to complex problems. And we all expect democracy to be a trajectory. Democracy is not a trajectory, especially in the post-Soviet context. It's a spiral. And it's moving upwards. It's going up and up. Sometimes it turns faster, sometimes it turns slower. But if you stop, you're going backwards. And that's why, for really the first time in 25 years that I've been in the country, I feel more confident now than I ever have that the country is on the right track, and we have to continue that momentum. I worked in Bulgaria on their terms of accession to the EU. And it was a big experiment for me because I had just come out of the Ukrainian system and I was curious to see whether this was exportable or not. And what my takeaway was from that, I worked in their system of administrative justice, setting up administrative courts to regulate the relations between the state and the citizen. And I realized that the process to become an EU member was infinitely more important than actually joining the EU. Because it forces you to scrap all of the old ways of doing things. It forces you to start bringing institutions into place that will start to take on a European view. And that is why Europe is so important. This is why we talk about a civilizational choice that Ukrainians made on the Maidan, is because we want Europe, not because we like holidays in France or in the Netherlands or someplace like that. Your beaches aren't that great anyway.
Hey, but we have the best cows.
And you got the best beer, but which is important. But the point is that if we build these institutions, we can't do the Ukrainian exceptionalism thing and start from scratch. If we take what you have and we put it on Ukrainian soil, at least we have something that we can actually build on and build a democratic country on. And that is the best protection we have against our neighbor, and that is the best protection you have against our neighbor.
Oh, right, okay. So I would like, well, thank you. Let's have one more comment on the corruption, because we also need to move on to direct foreign investment, which is a big issue.
You just made reference to the Transparency International Corruption Perception Index, and then in Ukraine and the Soviet Union in the latest report are both around 130.
Oh, okay.
But then you should know there is a time lag in compiling this index, and things are moving so quickly in Ukraine that much was not picked up. And there's more to add. Ukraine is cast in as a basket case, but we did pick up that corruption in Georgia, in Romania, and in Poland was structurally was fought in a very successful way, lifting these countries to places 50 or 60. And that's what I fully expect will happen with Ukraine in 2 or 3 years' time.
Okay, great. Thanks for adding that. And also thanks very much for giving that index to the world every year, which is great to have.
Okay.
At least I think
it's
so.
Not always convenient. No.
Well, I mean, it's great to have.
It's great to have.
You shine light in dark places. That's it, right?
That's right. Yeah.
So the next issue, there was already a tweet. Not everybody speaks Dutch, but one of them said, well, if the Netherlands would get 1 billion extra euros from the Ukraine with this treaty, of course I would also vote in favor, implying that we're going to pay an extra 1 billion to Ukraine because of this association agreement. Now, I'm not exactly sure what the financial streams are, but as to my understanding, there was not really a clause saying that we're going to pay extra. Who can explain to us how that is working? Yes, if there would be an extra billion, you would probably know, wouldn't you?
For sure. But the issue is the following. So it's also mismatch and misunderstanding. So it's not actually the sense of giving huge finance due to association agreement. We're not giving to receive any financial big help or something like that. It's focused on trade relationship, and it's bilateral, meaning it's profitable for Dutch party, Dutch side, and also for Ukrainian side. It's you asked about also about investments was a question.
Yeah,
I can give example because also many rumors about what's going on because Transparency International one indicator. By the way, in agrarian sector, the only sector which showed huge results was agrarian sector, official, stated by Transparency International. It's much more better than former Soviet Union countries now at this moment.
It's because it was the worst sector before.
The agrarian sector was the worst.
It's now actually... It's
and
now,
the traffic police, I understand.
It's huge change. But
okay.
About reforms, about what's going on with the country, also I think the best votes, because Dutch people know that, vote with money. Last year, net investment in Ukrainian agrarian sphere was more than 1 billion euro. 1 billion. Cargill building their port facilities. Soufflé started build port facilities. German company KVS, also building one of the biggest seeds factories. Monsanto, Lima Grain, Euralis, DuPont, all of them investing extra money. You mentioned about also customer. You have also big customers. Huge American funds already invested more than $500 million US. $1 billion US, more than 500,000 hectares of land. And they continue to invest. Huge opportunity for investments, and we see real investments coming. By the way, on Thursday, exactly when I come back, I go to Odessa to open new port facilities for grain storages. Company Vikoil, Swiss company, also opening facilities with more than 100 million investments done. So investments are coming.
And René, I would like to ask you, if there's an extra billion, it probably has to come from people like you, because it has to go through foreign direct investments. You're already working in Ukraine. How would this association treaty help, or agreement help with the foreign direct investment?
We are mainly trading, so I see a lot of advantages mainly for trade, reducing tariffs. Last year we had to pay 10% duty when we exported to Ukraine, and now it's 0. And also the regulations are getting easier with certification and quality standards and so on. So it's just easier to trade and to sell our products in Ukraine.
And but so if you look at what is in the association agreement, and if you look at foreign direct investment, what is in there? Or do you think it doesn't really matter for foreign direct investment to have this association agreement?
I think it really matters because especially the juridical system will be improved, and that's very important for investors. It's like
it's a confidence issue, maybe.
Last week was someone said it's a trade agreement with an insurance policy. So the insurance policy is about transparency, it's about juridical system, it's about a lot of other issues which will be solved and which will be improved, and that makes it easier and more safe to invest.
Okay.
It's a roadmap. Actually, once again, just
there's two of you who want to speak, but let's go. Please go ahead.
Exactly. For us, for the government, it's really the roadmap of reforms. We have to do bloody a lot of work with that. It's hundreds of different laws. For food safety and security, more than 100 different laws to be taken, regulation, procedures, normatives. It's huge work to be done. Yeah. And with that, it's jurisdictional reform, prosecution reform, land reform, institutional reform. Big piles of reforms must be done within also DCFTA, plus IMF package.
Yeah. And Daniel, you would like to add?
And it is a confidence thing. I mean, we talk about this issue of Ukraine as a basket case or not a basket case. It's not a basket case. And if you look at Western Ukraine, especially Lviv and Lviv region, it is going gangbusters. Why? It's Fujikura, large Japanese auto parts manufacturer, building a plant to employ 3,000 people. Leoni, a German auto parts manufacturer, this is all for export, by the way, into the EU, is going to be building a plant for 2,000 people. Why are these people coming to Western Ukraine? A, it is close to the EU border. B, the DCFTA gives them a certain advantages. And C, which actually should be A, is because the local government in Lviv and the central government have worked together to create an enabling environment that makes them very comfortable, very happy, and feel very wanted. I mean, Minister of Economy Ivaris Abramovich was bent over backwards, met with these guys 10 times, and they invested. This is what you need. This is the kind of, you need to do the legislative work, you need to do the hard grind. It's no one thing to pass a law, it's another thing to implement it, and that is an awful lot of work. But it's not rocket science. I mean, all of our neighbors have done this.
Based on experience, I can also add D, that Lviv is just a great city, actually.
It is a great city.
Just saying.
Also has good beer.
That's another experience I had, with nothing to do with politics. Any questions from the audience? Because it's been a while. Oh, there we are. We have some questions. Yes, sir. Could you please stand with me? Yes.
Sergei Lazarenko. I have a question. How much time will it take to implement this roadmap? Because there are some limitations at this moment, and will it take 3 years, 4 years, 5 years? Do you have some limits? You have this roadmap, but will it take 10 years or?
Okay. Thank you. Yes, go ahead.
Thank you for the question. You know, so many people thinking about we are going to start to do something. We are doing so. We're in a government for 16 months. Last year, I had more than 170 experts involved, also from European Union, USAID, IFC, EBRD, World Bank. All of them are working. We now have 179 working groups with deliveries, with the KPIs, things to do, responsible, and also timing. And it's impossible to be done without the parliament. So last year, even with all these issues you're talking about the politics, we managed to pass a lot of laws. And all the success also mentioned, also because of the parliament members. Yes, now we're facing issue with so-called like political crisis, because we now have several coalition members wanted to leave the coalition, give their conditions, but its questions will be solved because Ukrainian people has changed. It doesn't matter who would be sitting in the chair of the minister and or the chair member of the parliament. Situation has changed, country has changed. And we're going to do with the reforms, and we're going to do with absolutely different countries. I want my children to live in Ukraine. It's my personal target, and I want this country also to be with European practices, international practices.
I think Mr. Kov has an addition to that.
Just an intervention. I'm actually amazed by the pace all these changes are being implemented. And in my interview in Financial Dagblad, I called for more modesty on the part of the Dutch, who can't even reorganize the police force in 5 years.
Well, thank you for that.
Yeah, I mean, what are we talking about? Yeah.
So there a lot is going on. I think that's a general tendency we're getting this evening. That it's also good to hear that it's not just the association agreement that is going to spur all this change, but it's there, it's happening. Any other questions from the audience? I saw some hands go up. Yes, sir. I'll be holding the mic.
Alex Romaniuk. I wanted to ask the panelists to imagine the future in 2026. Right, we're all a bit older, a bit wiser. How will Ukraine and the European Union look like with the association agreement, and how will it look like without?
Okay, well that's a scenario question. That's always nice. Who would like to give it a go? Older and wiser. That's by the way, it's a guarantee.
Yeah. Well, I think that one of the things we will see is the demise of Russia. That will be the biggest change. That is, I mean, that country is so deeply corrupt, and that has, with all the consequences that entails, misallocation of government funds, misallocation of investment, no credibility in any walk of life, let alone authority, only power. I mean, what they have failed to do over the past 10 years, with all this old money flowing in, is absolutely amazing. So that will clear up a few things. Well, my favorite scenario is that we have a two-speed Europe with the Eurozone going ahead, and that we have a broader area of economic cooperation, of which the Ukraine will be a very valuable part.
Just like Britain.
Just like Britain. Yeah.
Just kidding, just kidding.
Yeah.
Any other scenarios you would like to share with us?
Actually, the question was very good. There are different scenarios. It's very difficult to plan scenario for 2-3 years with current circumstances, you see. And you're absolutely right with situation with Russia aggression, with occupied Donetsk, Lugansk region and occupied Crimea. And we now have situation with Minsk 2, which Russia is not following, unfortunately. It's actually the case. And for that, actually, we need your help, as well as Mr. To push Mr. Putin to follow Minsk agreements. And we thank you very much for the help. You gave us, Dutch people, first of all, gave us huge emotional, political help. The situation which happened starting from last revolution and with this aggression we had. So my answer is the following. So it's for me it's easier to understand the roadmap and the path to for next 10 years with the association agreement. So for sure we'll have strong economy, we'll have very strong together joint economy with investments. We had a very interesting investment forum in Germany, actually in October, and I very much was impressed when at the very beginning it was planned to have 170 people, up to 800 top governmental officials, top companies came to investment forum, and there was actually a statement. In Ukraine, you produce European quality of products with Chinese cost of sales. Yes, we're European China, let's say. We are huge of potential, and not only in agri, also in IT, in industrial sphere. Very qualified people, very qualified, very good land, good potential in many different sectors, huge opportunities for Europe also to grow together. It's also opportunity for Europe to grow together with Ukraine. The country with a size like France, with 45 million of population, with a production of in agrarian sphere bigger than France, for example, just to compare, with the export, so next year we'll have bigger exports than European Union, will be #2 position, now #3 for grain and wheat, as an example. Another scenario, what to do without association agreement, it's much more difficult question, because in such scenario you have different actually roadmap and trespass, because one of the issues is Russia, you're absolutely right, because this is playing on behalf of, for example, our foreign neighbor, and for me it's at this moment very difficult to predict without association agreement, because for me association agreement is a roadmap of the reforms, first of all. So questioning the reforms and questioning why people stand at let's say 2 years ago, and first in the history they raised European Union flag when they actually fight it for democracy, for human rights, and to make different, actually to change their lives. for me it would be more difficult to answer this question, absolutely, at this moment.
Thank you. I think that covers a lot of scenarios already. You had another question, sir, so please go ahead. It's good that we have that much time today, so you can ask another one.
Thank you very much. A remark first. If Holland has the best cows of the world, you have for sure the most smart ladies in your country, in Ukraine, because I meet a lot of smart ladies in the management of companies, and that's a very big compliment we can use in the Yes campaign. But that's not my question. I can find them myself. The question is, as a Yes campaign, we are very interested in the human rights in Ukraine. My question was about that in the first round. But the No campaign is much more interested in the animal rights of Ukraine. That's a little bit stupid. So the Yes campaign is for the human rights in Ukraine, and the No campaign is for the animal rights in Ukraine. Stupid.
Okay.
You have to make your comment, because it was a little bit strange in our main agricultural magazine. So I hope you can change it, and the journalist is here.
Okay. So there is something about the animal rights that I also promised in the first round would come back, because somebody mentioned that how do the animal treatment regulations align with the Dutch standards of animal rights and safety? So maybe you could comment. I think René, you would like to say something, and then the minister as well.
You can start. I can start first. Thank you very much for reminding Ukrainian girls and women. Actually, we have very nice girls. And about human rights, about smart ladies, about human rights, I can give you like as an example. We have in the top management in Ministry of Agri actually more female than male. Also about human rights, about animal rights. So one of the actually stereotype which somebody trying to put on Ukraine, that Ukraine is not producing based on European standards. Ukraine is producing based on European standards, also in very much care about animal welfare. You know, recently, let's say 2 weeks ago, it has been also one of the events when Mr. Kasyuk, which is MHP, one of the biggest holdings, they signed the joint agreement with Dutch company to follow and to also convert, let's say, they make the audit and make the practices, the best European practices for animal welfare, because he actually is our companies treating that at this moment, chicken producer, one of the biggest chicken producer. In our SPS, which is actually also part of the roadmap for DCFT, we also have obligation to do so, and government voted also for the roadmap plan, also to put more efforts on animal welfare, not only in chicken, in other industries as well. And this is based because of DCFTA, and not only DCFTA. At this moment, we're exporting our production to 190 countries. For example, with chicken meat and chicken eggs and other meat, more than 50 different countries. We're a very strong exporter also. Yes, we are. We're number 8 exporter of chicken, for example. And we was in the top 10 for chicken eggs as well. And for any other as well. So for us, it's very much important to have European and international standards, not only of the quality of production, but also of the animal welfare. Because we're planning our future together with foreign business, and when Dutch companies are investing, for example, now, and one of the best practices actually we're trying to promote with different projects, also based on European practices to grow the cows, to grow the pigs, and to grow the chicken. So we care for that, and for sure, we have also already did significant process in that, and we have, my concept is very simple. We are part of big international community, big of international trade. An invisible hand of competition declared by Adam Smith will make equal rights finally because of the vote, because we have to compete based on the pricing, based on the quality, and based on the factors how we produce the products. We have to follow the international rules how to do it. Yes, we're facing competition, but we are also changing with the production. I mentioned about last year we opened 9 new countries for more than 120 Ukrainian companies in milk and meat sector. So 9 countries, they made full audit of our system of producing such products, and we opened such a market. We even opened Chinese market last year for milk market. We doubled our export last year for Chinese market for all the products in total. And you know, Chinese, for example, standards also very tough on many different spheres. So we care about that. And not only about animal, but also about human rights and about many other sectors as well, which are very much important. Also for Dutch people, for example, rights rights of people when they go to the court, because you mentioned about prosecution, you mentioned about police, huge change in police. Huge change. I can give you some example because I don't know why
last
it's
example, because I need to get to René
yes,
as well.
Final. I don't know why it's not mentioned, because if you now go to Ukraine, even after Euro 2012, because it was a football, you remember, championship, huge change. You see international police, young people, absolutely new people. Trust to police has grown from 5% of level of trust to 72% of level of trust. You see absolutely different country.
Thank you. Yeah, René, you would like to comment on the animal rights part as well?
Yes, but because you see that there are 3 parties in the Netherlands who are against this treaty. It's Partij van de Dieren, it's PVV, it's SP. These are political parties who are against anything. And in the Netherlands they are always putting animal rights above human rights. So this discussion is just about 3 parties which are against anything and everything, and also putting animal rights above human rights, especially PVV and Partij van de Dieren. So especially in agriculture, these are not the parties which are in favor of agriculture, so they are also not in favor of this treaty.
But that, of course, I mean, there's the party line of argumentation, but there's different people who seem to care about the animal rights and who have questions about, well, when we open up our markets to Ukrainian products, do we still have the same level of respectful treatment of animals? Do you recognize that argument, or do you think that's not actually a worry because it's already respected? I think because you have to deal with the actual argument and not just with the parties that are in favor or against them.
If you look to the animal rights thing more deeply, it's in fact up to the consumer to decide. They should decide what they want and what they don't want. You see, and this is something which I always challenge, especially the poultry sector. If you see that Wakker Dier, that they can manage the supermarket to buy only products with 1 star or 2 star in terms of animal rights, these are the parties to work with. Because if it should be 1 star, then it's 1 star. And if this 1 star is from Ukraine or from Holland, there are standards and you follow the standards. If you don't follow the standards, your product is not on the shelf. And there we should fight, and not on political level. It's up to the consumer to decide, and if the consumer wants,
issue.
no, if the consumer decides I want this product, then you get this product. And if it's produced in Ukraine or in another country, and you see that especially with this treaty, that there are also in Ukraine more attention for animal welfare. So I think with the treaty, the animals get a better position than without the treaty. The same as with the people. So these issues are all addressed with the treaty. So they will be better off with than without.
I like that more than having to balance animal rights versus human rights, because I'd rather not have to choose, I guess.
It's all going together.
We have room for one more question, and it's you, lady. We're just going to stand next to you again. Yes.
Well, I actually wanted not just a question, but a comment. My name is Evgenia Balyast-Khuhimstra. I'm Ukrainian living in the Netherlands. I just wanted to comment on what you just said, is that I know in Ukraine people are fighting to get respect for simple, basic human rights, the reform of police and LGBTI community. And once you're fighting with that daily thing, you are less concerned with the well-being of chicken in that terrible factory in Vinnytsia. Sorry about that, but the well-being there was originally not that well, as far as I know. But as soon as the human rights protection and the society development in Ukraine will improve, then people will have more space to think about the way the slaughtering goes, and etc., etc. So that's also to comment on the NACAMP.
Yeah, so it's part of the roadmap, is what you're saying.
Look, you know, there's a saying in Ukrainian, and it's absolutely true, that the happiest animal at a Ukrainian wedding is the pig, because the pig gets to eat everything that the people didn't. And until recently, and basically animals, I mean free-range chicken, pigs, cattle, they ate there was no additives at all. I mean, they ate what people ate. I mean, you couldn't get anything better. I mean, they were ingesting what we were ingesting. Now there have been new processes, new feed, and that's a huge industry that has taken place. But the companies that are providing that feed, to a large extent, are foreign companies. They have their compliance, they have their restrictions, they have the regulatory mechanisms that they are all subject to in their home countries. And I see this through our own clients. And when they build factories in Ukraine, they build them according to the same strictures, according to the same rules and the same regulations as they would in their home countries.
There is also additional argument, because I also reviewed the articles. Together with animal welfare, there is also an argument about unfair competition from Ukrainian producers. That Dutch actually producers would suffer.
Yeah, because if you have no tariffs and you have cheaper production,
let's
it will
come to
be
economics,
bad, yeah.
and you will see that only 0.3% of total market is Ukrainian export. It's peanuts.
Okay, so that's not really a relevant issue.
It's not a relevant issue at all. So
Opinion.
it's peanuts and creating the problem because once again, this is within association treaty. With the treaty, it would go much more better with both animal right and human right and many other reforms as well.
Okay, thank you. I actually had a last question with one of the subjects. We dealt with all the subjects we wanted to, except for one. We have the visa-free travels in the association agreement. And people are thinking, well, there's going to be a mass immigration to the Netherlands from the Ukraine. Now, I've heard some people say that that's nonsense, but let's just clear it up. What does the visa-free travel encompass in the treaty? And how will it maybe even benefit trade or the economy? Would somebody like to comment on that? Yes, sir.
There is no visa in treaty. It's separate issue. It's a separate story, separate discussion.
It's not even in the text.
It's not in the treaty. Visa treaty. Once again, let's go to details and see actually what has been written. It's association agreement focused on political and economical stuff, but it doesn't guarantee opening the borders. Doesn't guarantee actually any kind of movements of the labor of people. There's another discussion going on separate to association agreement about what Ukraine has to do and what must be done in order actually to get the visa-free regime, but it's absolutely different story.
Yeah, that's for the next referendum. We're not going to get through it. By the way, it's already time, so we don't have much time for it. So I just what I did with the previous panel as well. I want to give you some free space to give your last, maybe your hope or your expectation about the referendum. Just a few words that we don't ask you a question, but you can say something, anything you like. Maybe we'll start with you.
Okay. I mean, I think to sum this up is that the association agreement is really a framework to help Ukrainians build a normal European country. You know, we're talking here fundamentally about the modernization of the Ukrainian economy and the expansion of the European market. This is an opportunity. It's win-win if everybody wants to embrace it. So look at my invitation to the Dutch voter would be, don't fear the association agreement, embrace it. I mean, Ukrainians are no different from the Dutch. They want the same thing. They're actually upset about the same things. You know, people are uncertain about the future. They feel the old stability and certainties of their lives have changed. They're upset that their governments are no longer, they don't feel that their governments are no longer accountable. They don't feel that they have voice in their governments, etc. Sound familiar? I mean, these are exactly the kind of debates that are going on in Ukraine that are going on in Holland. So this isn't about some Ukraine amorphous entity. This is a people-to-people thing. And I think if the excellent questions that were about human rights and what the Dutch are concerned about, they are actually not that different than exactly what Ukrainians are concerned about. The difference is that the Dutch already have these things, and you're afraid to lose them. Ukrainians aspire to have them. And as I said earlier, we would really like to have your problems.
Thank you very much. Mr. Daniel Bilak. I'll leave you to the end. Okay. Wait. Mr. Donald Kalf, what are your final thoughts? Somebody compared me to Jerry Springer early on already, so we're doing final thoughts. So what are your final thoughts here at the end?
Well, in a sense, we're lucky because there is a major undercurrent on the way to fight corruption. It is in Holland now becoming an issue. And we always had the pretense that this was a corruption-free country, but we are putting some lights in certain dark corners, particularly on lobbying and so on and so forth. So this is not going to stop, and it is, and I fully expect that in 2 or 3 years' time, it will be embarrassing if there is a no, but it is only a ripple, and it will not distract us from making progress in this very important field.
Thank you very much, Transparency International's Donald Kalf, everybody. René Kremers, what are your final thoughts?
Yeah, I hope that the Dutch people will vote yes, especially from the agricultural side, because yeah, we became that big in the Netherlands in agricultural trade, thanks to free trade. And now there might be a little bit competition from Ukraine, and we're gonna vote against. This is not a win strategy. If you want to win, you have to. Ukraine will anyway be a big agricultural country, with or without export to Europe. So better to be a partner in business and to earn money together than to say no, and we are also going to lose our business. So I hope definitely that people will overcome this negative way of thinking of Partij van de Dieren, PVV, SP, be in favor of something and choose for a winning strategy. And a winning strategy is cooperation and means a yes.
Thank you. Plus for Progress, René Kremers. I'm saving you for last because I'm thinking you have some great final thoughts.
I can also give you some figures at all. Just
more
just
figures.
for the final.
So many facts tonight.
Thank you. But just final figures. You know, I can tell you about, let's say, in figures about association agreements that European Union has signed the same types of association with more than 20 different countries. Also Central America, also Lebanon, and also other countries, without any question. Here you see Ukraine. We are also very much active in free trade agreements. Last year we signed a free trade agreement, with Canada. This year we're now in a big process with Israel and Turkey, as well, of signing, completing free trade agreements. We are part of a big economy. But for us, free trade agreement and association agreement is not simply free trade. It's actually, for me, it's actually my personal mission. Once again, I want my children to live in Ukraine, in European Ukraine, meaning with European values, with European rules, with justice, with police, with jurisdictional system, with many things. We're absolutely very close, we're very similar. And when I studied in the Nairobi, actually it was nearly 15 years ago, I remember how we shared actually joy and thought, and many even Dutch people didn't know where Ukraine is, we're not Russia. We're a country in the middle of Europe, if you see on the map. We're very big and very prominent, and very interesting country. So I would like those people in the Netherlands who are still hesitating, ask them to go to vote, because we need your vote, because we are voting for the future of Europe. We're voting for actually for helping us to make our reform and to change also our past and to change to make different our future. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Alexei Pavlenko, His Excellency, the Minister of Agriculture in the Ukraine. Thank you very much to the whole panel for being here. Before you leave, of course, there's the gift shop. Make sure that you get yours. And we are, of course, going to give a round of applause. But I need to introduce once more, next door, we're going to have beautiful music. And I will convince you to be there and be quiet, because there's only one type of music in the world that makes you more intelligent. And that is classical music, which you are going to hear. I remember when studying, everybody told me, put that on because you're going to be smarter, you're going to make it. And I actually graduated, so now I'm absolutely sure that that's true. So you guys, make sure that you see it. If you want to talk with the panel, stay here. I would like to thank very much the organization, Brand New Ukraine, for making this possible. Both panels and the musicians and yourselves for taking the time to contribute to the debate and the dedication to being here. Thank you very much and have a great evening.